spring break, if you've been coming out to Polson, you know we did a little something special for spring break. We went with an organization called City Impact to San Francisco, and we served for a week over our entire spring break, and it was an amazing, amazing experience. And we started on Monday with like team building, with like scavenger hunt, and then Tuesday through Friday we served in the city every single day. We would get up at 6:30 in the morning, drive into the city, and get assigned different areas and tasks where we would have to serve. And we all served in different capacities, doing different things, whether we were on the streets actually inviting people back to church, or whether we were in the kitchen just washing dishes or something. Everybody did their part, and all of it accumulated in an amazing experience of really just showing God's love to the people in Tenderwood. And there are lots of highlights that you can take from a trip like this, and everybody comes away with their own story. And that's what we're here to do tonight, is to share those stories and those big peak moments with you all, so you can know what we were doing over our spring break, get a feel of what all of your efforts, whether you were buying milk tea for us, whether you bought our bake sale or served at our bake sale, no matter what capacity you were helping us, just praying, just showing up, anything, we want you to know that that really helped us a lot get through a really rough week, but an amazing week, and we want to share the spoils of war, if you will, with all of you. So the first speaker tonight is Helena.
Hi, so I'm Helena.
Hey.
So, I'm a freshman, so actually, just a little background, because it actually ties in with the story. So, I came into, well, I grew up in a Christian home, so I grew up going to church. And so for the majority of my high school, I guess, career, I was serving in church. I was serving in like youth ministry, or like I was like one of the core members. And so when I got to college, I was really spiritually dry. Like nothing was really working. And so I came into college thinking, okay, I'm gonna take a break from serving God, and I'm just gonna work on my own faith, like my own relationship with God. I'm just gonna, this is me and him, and we're just gonna work it out for a year. And I think it was after a couple weeks of coming to Pulse, I was like, okay, I can't do this. I'm not used to just sitting here, coming, going, not doing anything. So I joined worship team. And so, like, even after that, I was still feeling kind of dry. I was like, okay, so mission trip. This is like the one thing, this is like that big kick in the butt that I need to kind of, reset things. And so, the week before, I was praying, I was like, God, I really want this to be something that will reset this fire in my heart, that would just like this passion that I should be having for you. And so, yeah, I was just praying and praying, and like the first couple of days, I was like, every time I went up to someone, I was like, hey, how are you doing? They're like, hi, thank you, bye. And I'm like, okay, all right then. Like, I've never been on a business trip, so like I don't have like that tough like skin where it's like, oh, okay, fine, I'll just go up to the next person. But then I kept praying, I was like, God, like, send someone that I can connect with, someone that I can talk to, that will really, like, allow me to reflect back on my own faith and not only minister to her, but have her story minister to me. And so, the week went on, and then came Thursday, which was street ministry. So, like, Daryl and I were, like, talking to people, and then, like, people were kind of like, I just want your chips. And so, we were walking down the street, and then we got stopped at a intersection, and it was, I think it was like the two of us and like some other, I don't know if everyone was there, I don't remember, but this girl, she was wearing white, she was like coming at us, and I was like, no, I don't know if she's gonna stop. And then she stopped and was like, hey, can I have a bag of chips? And we were like, sure, of course. And so, we just started talking about like, oh, like, how are you doing? And she started talking about how her dad had just passed away, either it was last week or the week before, and she was going through a really rough time because her dad was the only one left, just like, I guess, blood relative that was left in California. And so she was kind of like contemplating, oh, should I stay here? Should I stay in Vietnam? Or should I go back to Vietnam? I don't know. And so she talked about that for a while, and then we started asking her, like, oh, were you always living in the Tenderloin district, or, did you move here? Sorry. And she was like, oh, no. So she grew up in a pretty well-off home. Her dad was an architect, so they were like pretty well off. Like she didn't really have to worry about much. And she she dreamed of going to college. Like she was really smart. She knows 4 languages. It's more than I know. But like she's just really smart. And sorry, there's a mosquito. And so so she told us that she's been on the streets since she's 27 now, so if you do the math, it's like 13 or 14 years. So what first initiated that was she was just at home, and her half-brother was sexually abusing her. And at first she was like, okay, I'm just gonna hold it in, I'm just gonna wait it out, and we'll go to college, and then just like forget about them. But I mean, she was 13 and 14. You can't really, it was a long time. And so she finally opened up and told her mom, and her mom actually ended up kicking her out of the house. And so for the first couple of years, she was living under like the bridges of the highways, like those, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's like little nooks underneath the bridge. So she was living there for a couple of years, and just really kind of like looking around for food. Like she told us that she would never beg for food or money or any of that because she knew that she was capable of finding it herself. And so she would like go behind like Safeways and like supermarkets and try to look for like some salvageable food. And so after a couple of years of living under a bridge, she heard about this organization that like provides these tents, and like you can sleep there. And so she started going there, and then every so often they send people like over from the organization, and they like pick random, I think like 5 to 10 people, and they're like, oh hey, we're gonna give you permanent housing. And so she was one of the people who got picked. And so right now I think she's living near Caltree, I think she said. So she's like definitely away from the Tenderloin district. But for the first couple of years, like she was just not a nice person. Like, sorry, this might sound really strange, okay, but this is what she told us. So like she said that every time like a guy would approach her, she would like strip him totally naked and just run off with his clothes to humiliate him, because of like she had to release that bitterness, she had to release that anger from what happened to her. And so she said she stopped now, but there's always that bitterness inside. And so well, when we talked to her every time, she'd be like, oh, this is from my dad, this is a gift from my dad, he is providing for me even after he's dead, and all that stuff. But I was kind of thinking to myself, like, girl, that's not your dad, that's your heavenly father. But, I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to, push her away. She told us that, like, when she's in the streets, she tends to act crazy. Like, those, like, people where you're like, ah! Like, they're just, like, running around, like, screaming, like, doing, like, weird things. You guys have seen those people on the street, right? Yeah, obviously not me. She actually told us that she does it so that people will leave her alone, so that other homeless people wouldn't approach her, because she said that when they come to know you, when they realize how smart she is, they're going to try to break her down. They're going to try to get her addicted to drugs, or they're going to try to kill her, so that there's, just like one less competition out there. And so, she also said that sometimes she acts crazy when she's riding her bike to make people laugh. Because some people during their day, they just need that one person to do something silly to make them laugh. And I thought that was so sweet of her. She also has the biggest heart ever. Like it's crazy. So she told us that moments before we met, there was someone who gave her a sweater. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks. She was like ran down her sweater. And she saw someone on the street that was shivering, that was more needy than she was. And so she just wholeheartedly just gave it up and was like, here, you can have it. And like, she told us another instance where she had food and she was starving, she was so ready to eat it, but she saw someone who was less capable than she was to go find food, and so she gave it to them. She said that she'd rather go hungry than not help someone. Or she'd rather she'd rather go cold than have someone freeze to death. And I thought, wow, that's really amazing. I mean, like, as Christians, we're called to love everyone. We're called to give up all we have to the poor, and yet, me, I'm kind of just like, when I see the homeless person before, I was like, you know, like, I don't know, I just didn't feel safe around them, but I realized that, you know, after you get to know them, they're such sweet people. I feel like God really answered my prayers through this week. Just not only sending Michelle for me to talk to, but also just being able to serve Him and realizing that, yeah, I am supposed to be serving Him. I am supposed to be worshiping Him through my service to Him, and just really opened my eyes to just like that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to, you know, just like chill and let everything else around me or everyone else around me do all the work. But I have to actively pursue God. I have to actively work but I have to actively serve God in order to just grow closer to Him.
Alright, hi guys, my name is Jordan, and if I look at my phone a lot, it's because I put my notes down there. So this was my first mission trip with Pulse, but I've been on mission trips before with my home church. I've been to Arizona 3 times on a mission trip to Winslow. But this year in the Tenderloin, God definitely taught me a few new things I was able to take home. And coming to the Tenderloin, I was thinking, man, I'm going to do like lots of stuff for God. I'm going to help the poor, feed the hungry, do all this stuff. And like I figured out that poverty and hunger aren't the only problems there. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're really big problems, but like their biggest problems aren't exactly their physical needs sometimes. One day I was assigned to do meal deliveries and to make the food for the people there. And our city impact leader, Kent, told us more about what it was like to do meal deliveries, and that the primary purpose of delivering meals to people isn't exactly just to give them free food, but it was also to have an intentional conversation with the people there. So the people we went to were like living in the apartments and hotels, so they didn't really they weren't exactly homeless. So even if they didn't have much money, they told us that there were a lot of free programs that you could get food, and like no matter what, people in Tenderloin actually did have access to food. So our goal wasn't just to quench their hunger, but it was to be able to talk to them and have a good conversation with them. So after they open the door, we don't just give them the food, move on to the next room, and just like keep it like that, but we try to ask them questions like see how their day is going, or like how long have you been living in the Tenderloin, or what do you have planned for today, and stuff like that. And we'd ask all these questions to see to see if we could have a good conversation and like get to know the person, get to know their life. And at the end, we always try to end it with prayer. We try to make it, or we try to ask them, hey, is there anything I can pray for you about, or like, are you dealing with anything right now? And sometimes they say yes. I've got a broken knee, or I'm just recovering from a sickness. And sometimes they say no, and it's fine. But either way, when you ask if I could pray for them, then they most of the time appreciate somebody caring. So when they open the door, sometimes it's like a quick, oh, I'll take that food, see ya. Sometimes it's, I've had some doors in which they just love talking, and then when I ask how they're doing, they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing great, I'm just doing this, I'm doing that, and like I'm really having a fun time. And so sometimes I've had long conversations with people asking how their days are, and like they're like very transparent and tell me everything about their life. Sometimes too much. Anyway, so our leader, Kent, he told us that a common misconception about the Tenderloin is that the biggest problem is the poverty and hunger there. Well, what we realized was that the biggest problem wasn't so much the hunger, but it was isolation. Now, at first when he said that, I was kind of surprised, but later I understood why. Like, when I went building by building and room by room, most of the time when I went inside, they were like watching TV or they were like on the internet or doing something like that, and they didn't really have much human interaction for the day. Sometimes I'm the first face they see all day, and like sometimes they just don't have anybody to talk to throughout the day, and being there, just listening to their story and talking with them, sometimes that just might mean the world to them. So some of the people I've talked to, they love going on walks because it's so boring in their apartments and they have absolutely nothing to do, and their apartment's like almost a death trap just to like, because they have nothing to do there. And some of the people like that I've talked to, normally when you're talking to other people, like you want to lead a conversation, you want to be the one asking the questions and stuff, but sometimes they were like leading the conversation and I just like sat there and listened to everything, and they were like talking on for about like 10 minutes or so, and everybody else moves on the floor above me and I'm just still standing there here listening to them. So I've had a lot of long conversations with people there, and there was a few rooms I went to in which they gave me advice for the future, like, oh yeah, when you go to college, make sure to save money and do all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, you're giving me advice? I feel like I'm the one supposed to be doing something with you. But there was this one room, one time, there was a transvestite who gave me a pep talk about having good motivations and stuff, and that was weird. So yeah, definitely a lot of people are transparent, they're willing to talk about anything, and it actually isn't that bad, just knocking on the door and like saying hello. So, but yeah, being that person who listens to them definitely can mean a lot, especially when they don't have anybody to talk to. So like things like loneliness and depression is definitely a problem in the Tenderloin. It's also a problem like everywhere around the world. It can also be a problem here at SGSU. Like how I think about it, like what do you do during spring break? Sometimes you just sit. For me specifically, what I like to do is I just stay at home, play video games, like surf the web, go on Facebook, whatever. And like I'm not doing that much. I just stay home and like keep to myself. And I'm pretty guilty of this, but like sometimes I just want some of my own time to myself, just to relax, just to do my own thing. But yeah, one time I heard a message from City Impact. We have sermons in the morning and afternoon, and like I heard a message that one of the guys said, and he said that sometimes technology can hide our brokenness and isolation. So just because we have like money and we like are richer than people in the Tenderloin, and we have iPhones, iPads, this iDevice. Even though we have all this stuff, sometimes we still suffer some of the same problems as the people in the Tenderloin. One thing I took from the trip was that we should also be reaching those who are like isolated from themselves, the people who keep to themselves and just don't like to have, or just like to stay in their own rooms. Also, another thing I learned is that like we should not become isolated ourselves. Like oftentimes I've had days in which I would just stay in my dorm room and just game all day and like have almost no human interaction, kind of like some of the people I mentioned on the trip. So like being together in a fellowship like this, like Pulse, can definitely help and can definitely like help us bond together. Pulse definitely can't be effective if we're all doing our own thing, and it's definitely great to have a community to bond with. So I'm just going to end by saying that, that we shouldn't be afraid to talk to a friend who might be isolated, who might be just keeping to themselves, and we should be able to like get to know them and reach out. And also, like at the end of conversations, try to see if we could pray for one another. That's like one of the big goals that a lot of us from the trip agreed to do. Like that prayer is definitely a powerful thing that we could do that could change somebody from the inside out. So we kind of made a goal to pray for another Christian friend about something, whatever it is. Not exactly sure who actually did that yet. I didn't do it. But yeah, so I'm just going to end by saying, don't forget to pray for the people around you, and don't forget to like think about those who might be isolated themselves. So yeah.
Well, as many of you know, I was kind of the one coordinating the whole trip, planning it, and part of it. And of course, Deanna, Keith, and Tim like really helped me with a lot of it. But I was the one that did made the numerous phone calls to City Impact to book everything, to make sure that every detail is in place, to make sure we were going to get there well, and that no one was going to get lost or I don't know. But though I enjoyed all that planning and I was super excited to go on this trip, I think that along the way I kind of lost sight of why I was doing it. That I lost sight that the point of it was to get closer to God, that it was to the glory of God, because I was so focused on the planning. And yeah, a few times during the planning I freaked out. You can ask Keith and Deanna. There were a few times where like, dude, Leia, chill, or you're going to be fine. And I'm like, no, we have 100 things to do. Chill. And even though I freaked out, I was like, no, I'm in control. I got this. I know what to do. I know exactly what's to be done. But that was the problem, that I was in control. I wasn't depending on God for His help. And that caused me to become exhausted by the end of the trip, and it made me vulnerable to spiritual attacks. And by the time the trip arrived, I was so exhausted that honestly, I didn't really want to go on it anymore. I just wanted to be done with it. I just wanted all the responsibility from it to be gone. And so right away, well, first me begin by saying that each member of Encore, we all experienced some kind of attack during this trip that we had to deal with and that we prayed over. And for me, that was negativity. Like I said, I wasn't really motivated by the trip to go on it anymore. And I just wanted to get it over with. And there were several times I told Deanna, I'm like, Deanna, I'm so exhausted. I just want to go home and to be able to rest. And the second day of our trip, which was our first day of serving, I got sick. The morning I woke up, I had a horrible sore throat, and I was just nose running. It was horrible. And so I blamed it on that. I blamed my exhaustion on that. But that wasn't really the truth. I just didn't want to be there. And so the whole time I was there, I kind of felt distant, and I could tell that my heart wasn't in the right place, that I wasn't there for the right reason. And so finally, Thursday night, I was so fed up with it. I need to figure this out. I need to know why I'm feeling this way. So I just went off on my own, and I just prayed and meditated, and I'm like, God, why am I feeling this way? And then I realized it's because I was distant from Him. I felt lonely because I didn't feel like I was as close to Him as I was before. And so I just prayed for forgiveness. I'm like, please, Lord, just forgive me for having ignored you, for not having depended on you during this whole planning and on this trip. And I just prayed that I would be able to feel His presence with me right away, so that loneliness would be gone. And right away I felt it. I could feel in that small room where I was that He was with me. And I felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't burdened anymore by that. And then that night, like, was amazing. Like, we had, like, a girl talk, like, all the girls, like, we stayed up to, like, 2 a.m. and we creeped, or, now, anyways. And the next day, like, even though we went to bed at, like, 2 a.m. and we had to wake up at 6, we got, like, 4 hours sleep. And even though I was still getting over my cold, I felt, and we were, like, physically tired, but I felt like I had a new energy. I felt like I was refreshed. And previously on the trip, I like just could not wait till the task was done. I'm like, oh, when is this gonna be over? Like, oh, I don't want to do anything else. I'm done with this. Good, like I'm done for the day. But like Friday, I'm like, I'm done with this. Okay, give me something else to do. Like I got this. And like honestly, Friday afternoon, all I did was clean, and I cleaned a lot. Yeah, look at this. And like I cleaned the garbage room. I'm like, I'm done. What should I do next? And I'm like, oh, clean the bathroom. I'm like, okay, cool, I got this. And by the time it's over, like I didn't want to leave, and I think a lot of us felt like that. Like we didn't want to leave because of like this experience that we had there, and the people that we met, and the friendships that we made. Not just with the people on the team at City Impact, but the people that we met on the streets too. So like around this whole trip, I think like a lot of us felt like there was like just spiritual battles going on, and a lot of the time when you do something for God, when you know that you're doing something that's in God's will, there'll be forces that are stopping you from doing those things, that are discouraging you from doing those things. But each time that something like that happened, like God always provided, and He answered our prayers, like on the trip and even before, like just for the fundraising. Like again, I was freaking out. I was like freaking out, like how are you gonna get enough money to like feed people, to like finish paying the cost for it, like in such a short amount of time. And as you guys know, like we did a fundraiser with Memora, we did a big sale, we did a fundraiser at Ono. But like our fundraising, we went like got above and beyond than what we needed. And that was all because of God, because most of the money that we received were from random donations. It wasn't even from our own efforts, from the fundraising that we tried to do. Like, it was just random old pollsters that were like, oh, we heard about your mission trip. Here's like, money. Like, yay. And there was this one night at Pulse where this guy came in during announcements, and he heard our announcement about City Impact, and he's like, I just want to give to your cause, and then he left. And that was really amazing. And so it was like things like that, like this, God really showed up and provided for us, and in my time of need, like He came, He provided for me. And so my encouragement for you guys is like, if you guys feel like you've been defeated, if you feel like you're distant from God, like not to give up, because He's always there. Like He's there, running after you and wanting that relationship with you. And yeah, that's what I like about you. Now Abby's gonna share.
Awesome. So hi guys, I'm Abby, the third year. And a little bit of background. So, you know how people go bar hopping and clubbing and stuff like that, club hopping? Well, when I was a freshman, I would go church hopping and ministry hopping. I was trying to figure out where my place was here at San Jose State. One of the places that I went was called The Ville, and some of you guys know him. His name is DJ, and has really long hair. And this guy would just go out around the school and pray for people randomly. I was a freshman, and I was really shy. And I was like, you want me to go pray for people? But he pushed me out of my comfort zone, so it came to the point where I would carry extra sandwiches, extra granola bars, extra water bottles in my backpack, expecting that God would have so much for me to pray for almost on a weekly basis, and usually when I would write for it for some reason. So going to this mission trip, it was my first mission trip, but I was expecting that, it would be something like that. I wouldn't be afraid or anything. But Monday came and we did that scavenger hunt, and we just saw some homeless people. It wasn't even like in the Canada one yet, and I was like, hey. So I was like, why am I afraid to go pray for people? This is like my natural habitat. So that night, Monday, I prayed that God would just give me one person to pray for, to talk to. And that night I had a dream. It was just like a really brief dream, but we were walking in the Tenderloin, and I saw some black guy with blue eyes. Really rare, right? So Tuesday, was the first day, and I worked at the thrift shop because I was afraid to go out there. I was like, I need to warm up to this first. Let me get acquainted with the area. And then later that day we did rescue missions, and that's basically where you serve people dinner and they listen to a message and worship. And we were doing a frontline, basically welcoming everybody into the area, and I swear I saw the guy because I walk in, and then I was like, oh my gosh, Jordan, Inky, it's him. And then I looked at his eyes, and they were brown, so I was like, it's not him. So I went to the other table, and I talked to this guy, and his name was Jesus. And I was like, Jesus, what's your last name? He was like, Rosales. I was like, what's Jesus? And this guy reminded me of the prodigal son because he was dressed up in like a black sweater, some nice jeans, nice shoes, but he was only 35. So I was like, what brings you to the Tenderloin? He's like, oh yeah, I've only been homeless for 3 years. So I asked him, what are your dreams? And he's like, I'm pretty close to where I want to be in life. It's like, really? And then he's like, one of my dreams is just to talk to people about my dreams like you. I was like, oh, cool. And it made me realize that these people are like more than accepting of our talks. So it encouraged me a little bit. The next day was just an off day. Like, man, first of all, we got there late, and we had to sit in the back, and I was tired, so I fell asleep through the message. And then later that night, we did meal deliveries, and I was super discouraged, knocking on the doors. Everybody else got people to open the door and have great conversation. I feel like 1 or 2 people. I was like, man, where's our door? It's like empty. And we worked with the kids that day too, and they were just like nuts. I could not handle them, which I love kids, so it was really weird to me. And then when we went back to the church that night, people were doing their own things. So some people played ping pong, the leaders were really stressed out, and then I was like, why? So I remember that night, Keith asked me to pray for him, and then me, Tamara, and Matt continued to pray, just that Thursday would be different because we didn't want to leave unchanged. And man, power of prayer. So Thursday, it was the only day we got there early. We sat in the front, so we actually listened to the message. And I want to share with you the things that I learned. So the message was from Ephesians 4, verses 11 to 13, basically talking about unity and how we have different gifts. God has given us different gifts to serve the church. So one is that people glamorize the role of a pastor, not realizing every role is just as important. So whether you're a janitor at the church or a greeter at Frontline, your role is just as important as a pastor. 2 is that don't think that God can't use you because you can't talk in front of a crowd. He has given you specific gifts to build up the body. And 3, living missional lives start with building community. The early church in Acts had thousands of added daily because they made it personal. They broke bread in each other's houses. They didn't go into one megachurch with thousands of people. They made local communities. So that night we did street ministry, and man, that was crazy. So some people talked about it. I'll go in more depth. Our leader was Emily, and she had purple hair but a golden heart, so she was a Lakers fan, right? She was really cool. Like, we would go around the Tenderloin, and then she would be like, oh, hey, what's up, homie? What up, girl? And I was like, what the heck? These people are crazy, and you're just loving on them. So it made us really comfortable to go around the Tenderloin and talk to these people. And it made me want to go out there and know these people like she does, because she knew like their background. She knew what they were going through. One person that we prayed for, her name was China, and she told, Emily told us that China was just in a wheelchair like a couple of months ago, but she got healed by God, so that was crazy. And all of us at Pulse, we just circled around her and prayed for her, and she was like weeping, so I knew that she was blessed by our prayer. And this was the first time for Pulse to actually be all together as a team during street ministry, and I was really encouraged by my little freshmen, all praying people. Was like, oh, I'll go, yay! So that was really encouraging to me to see our Pulse team getting together, stepping out of our comfort zones and praying for people. our way of talking to people was just passing out chips and stuff. But we came to this point where it's called Pill Pushing Hill, something like that. And we ran out of chips. And I was like, man, we ran out of chips, but I don't want to go back yet. So we started singing songs. We started singing worship. So here's the corner of all the drug dealers and stuff right here, and then this is us singing. And even though like it was already dark, it was around 7:30, we weren't afraid, and the presence of God was so thick in that place. I saw people turn their faces and see us singing in that corner. And it was already like 7:45-ish, so we were gonna go back to our cars in the parking garage. And right when we were passing by, I hear, "Yo, keep up the good work, guys." I was like, "What? I'm gonna pray for that person." So I ran up, "Hey man, is there anything I could pray for you for?" And he's like, "No, I'm praying for y'all." I was like, "What?" So everybody else circled around him, and he was just encouraging us. He was like, we're the older generation now, so we're marching to the grave, but you guys are marching to something else. And he was just encouraging us to keep going as a team and to not lose heart and to shine our lights, you know, things like that. And some other things that hit me personally, and I was like, "Black guy with blue eyes!" So I was like, "You guys, that's the guy I had a dream I'm wondering about." And then Dee was like, "Go tell him." So I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Hey, Charles." He was like 60, 70-ish, maybe 50, I don't know. And then I was like, this might sound crazy, but I had a dream about you on Monday night, and God totally knew that you were gonna like talk to us and encourage us, so that's great. And then he's like, "Actually, I have green eyes." And I was like, "Really? It's kind of dark," so I looked closer. And then he was like, "Girl, don't get too close, you're gonna get hypnotized." Spiritual high, like we were just like so on fire, like, man, let's keep going. And I wanted to take this energy back to the church where we were sleeping at. So I asked if we could, instead of like doing our own thing, if we could circle up and have a time of worship and talk. And we did. And Daryl shared a message with us, continuing on being part of the body. And then we shared some testimonies about like what we were learning, what God is teaching us. And I also encouraged others to share what was going on in their lives. And I was able to share my struggles with my family. Like, even though I come to Pulse, I'm so happy all the time. Like, I have a lot of stuff that I have unresolved with my family. And this is the first time I was actually able to be transparent with all of Pulse there. And I like broke down crying, and I didn't realize how much it hurt me. But afterwards, they prayed for me, and it was a good 10 minutes, 20 minutes of prayer. And it reminded me of why I came to Pulse in the first place. It reminded me of why I became a Christian in the first place. It's because these people, like, come as you are. It doesn't matter what the baggage that you have on your back. They're going to love on you no matter what. So after the trip, Leia asked us, what are the things that we wanted to take back to Pulse? And these are some of the things that I learned that I want to bring here into the culture of Pulse. One is Colossians 3:23. So it's basically be a servant, not a volunteer. A volunteer gets work done, but a servant gets things done with the right heart. And Colossians 3:23 is whatever you do, work at it with all your heart and do it for the glory of God. 2 is know your role. Know that no matter if you're on worship team or a preacher or just someone who comes, know that you are still important in this body. And 3 is be intentional. We can't serve out there unless it starts in here and here in Pulse. And John 13:35 says, your love for each other will prove to the world that you are my disciples. And when I became a Christian, everybody else's love showed me who God was and how God loved us. So, as Jordan mentioned, we should start praying for each other. We should start loving each other here at Pulse and make prayer regular, what Tim Riley says, when you talk to people, say, hey, how you doing? They're like, yeah, good. No, really, how are you doing? So I want to encourage you guys, and actually challenge you guys tonight. Before you go home, just get to know one person here and ask them, how are you doing? And pray for them. So.
And we were giving out chips and doing the whole spiel. And Emily goes up to this guy named Daryl, and they start talking. This guy is really, really friendly, and he's like, yo, I saw you guys playing music the other night. Like, you guys were awesome, singing and whatnot. He's like, do you think we could do that right now? And we're like, yes, right now. And on the street corner, we just started singing worship, and he led us in worship and just started singing, and it was just an awesome moment. Everybody around us stopped and was like looking at us, and it was just a really awesome moment just to be able to connect with someone like that.
God, I just thank you for all these testimonies. I thank you for changing our hearts and allowing us to serve your people. I thank you for the people who are here tonight that are new. I pray that they would see your love through the way that we love them and we love each other, God. I pray that this place would be a place to continue to love and serve you, to worship you in truth. May we serve with the right heart, God. May we do all things for your glory. We just thank you for this time of worship. We thank you that at the end of a busy week, we can come here and unwind and be transparent with each other, God. Please continue to use your Holy Spirit within us and love on each other. In Jesus' name, amen.